you so much for being here. Even those of you I know that are just waiting this out to get to something else, you know who you are. We are going to entertain and inform you anyway. We do have an amazing panel of women today that I'm super excited that will be talking to us. So, to begin with, she has been nominated for an Academy Award. She has won an Emmy Award. She is the most mesmerizing voice in all of Hollywood. From The Expanse, please welcome Shohreh Aghdashloo. Robin Scherbatsky. She is avenged with all of our favorites, and she is about to head to Stumptown. Please welcome Cobie Smulders. She has accompanied one of my favorite doctors. She has wowed us on stage, and now she is helping people on New Amsterdam, Miss Freema Agyeman. Glowing, you might say, from her second Emmy nomination for playing Debbie Liberty Belle Eagan on the Netflix hit Glow. Please welcome to the stage Miss Folan Gilpin. All right, and we have a surprise for you guys that I'm really excited about. You might know her from Bosch. You might know her from Body of Proof. But there's a B word that I know many of you in here know her from, and that's the Borg. If I said 7 of 9, you'd say Jerry Ryan was here. I'm so excited. Now, I don't know if you've all heard, but Jerry is going to be joining Star Trek Picard. And so we're so excited to have her here. And so while she sits down, we're going to actually start with Jerry, who doesn't have the placard because she was a surprise. Don't be offended. So please tell us every single thing you can tell us about Picard right now, please, and thank you.
There is not much that I'm allowed to say about Picard, unfortunately. I can tell you, as of about 3 hours ago, that 7 is back, and Data is back, and Hugh is back, and let's see, Jonathan Frakes and Rita Sirtis are back. And there's an amazing new cast, and of course, you know, Sir Patrick, who's amazing. And I think we're on the 6th episode now that we're shooting, and it's going really well. And I think you guys are gonna love it.
Yes. All right, Shohreh, I want to start with you because you kick so much ass on The Expanse. She's that effing hero of Mother Earth, am I right? And how excited were you when Amazon said, hey, guess what? We're actually going to give your show another shot.
I was so excited, I can't even tell you how much. Because when I heard that the show was cancelled, I thought, okay, life is a journey for me, from chapter to chapter. When one chapter ends, the other one starts. But I was still upset and sad, and when they called me and they told me that Amazon was picking up the show, I could have not believed it. First thing I said was, this show should have been on Amazon from day one. Because when the show talks to the people of the world, when the show is about the people of the world, then it should be shown to the people of the world. Now, my brother in London, my mother in the Middle East, and all my friends elsewhere, we all can watch it together. I don't have to tape it every week and send it to them. That's why I'm so grateful to them.
That is a VHS for you.
Because they wouldn't know what happens next.
Well, we're very excited. And since we are here to talk about women kicking ass, I want to start with a question for everybody. Are there people that you remember when you were growing up or starting out in the business that you thought of as role models? Who were the women that you looked at when you were young and you're like, I want to be like her? Should I start?
Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
So you can just do that and then you can scream. It's really fun. So do that, okay?
growing up, when I was little, my older sister was a role model for me. She was, she played soccer and she played basketball, went on to play college ball, went on to play for the Dutch national team. So I always was really inspired by her in terms of just her athletics. And then as I got older, and when I was on How I Met Your Mother, we had a director, Pam Fryman, who directed almost every episode of our show, except for maybe 6, and she's always been a huge role model for me.
I went to a very academic convent girls' school, and which was run by nuns, and it was very, very strict, and I didn't get into the arts until much later. I was very much a science head, and there was a science teacher there actually, and she was incredibly encouraging and quite harsh. I remember it being quite... Oh, that's it, I've been calm.
I didn't know what you were going to say.
Your time is up. Your time is up.
And I remember just at first misinterpreting that for her being unkind. And then I realised as time went on that she was pushing me, you know, because she could, it was her way of kind of helping me to achieve to achieve my goals. It so transpired that I then moved to the arts, and I remember equally my mother being quite a different force in my life, who was always just incredibly encouraging and very permissive and very free, so a different kind of strength. But she always said, as long as you have a passion for something, I don't care what it is, if you have passion and drive, I will be backing you 110%. So the fact that I turned around then and said, I don't want science anymore when I was going wrong with my path, my teacher was disappointed, but my mum was like, well, what else do you want to do? Because I'm going to be here for you to back you. So I took that, two very different kinds of strength, and hopefully incorporate that into my life.
The moms we like the best, the ones who say, do what you want to do.
Yeah, do what you
If you'll be broke. How about you, Betty?
I'm going to copy your answer and say my mom, because my mom is and was an actor when I was growing up and did mostly stage stuff, and you know, she's like 5 feet ginger, full ginger, and I grew up watching her playing, you know, the crazy maid in a restoration comedy, and always her fullest, clowniest, weirdest self, and playing to the mezzanine and making the biggest, craziest, funnest choices. And I think that really stayed in my brain for later when I think parts of the business tried to seep into my brain and say, you know, the things that are most interesting about you are the Barbie stuff and the stuff with an expiration date on it. And I sort of kept those crazy clown lessons that my mom taught me. It was like, oh, I'm actually a very weird clown person. And I would also say working with Alison Brie on Glow has been she's amazing. A pretty transformative experience for me, watching her as a woman on set, just being very brave and vocal and calm and a boss. And as someone who's operated basically 32 years as a human apology and trying to disappear into the wall, seeing someone still be likable and loved, but also calmly taking charge of a situation, it's actually the most caretaking thing that you can do for the people around you. So I feel totally changed by working with that particular woman.
That's a good one. Ms. Ryan?
Copycatting. No, my mom was my role model, and you know, she's a ball buster. She takes no guff from anyone. She is a fierce mother bear, and the most protective mother you would ever meet for her kids and her grandkids. But an incredibly loving mother, an incredibly nurturing and independent woman. My dad was in the Army. We moved around a lot. My brother and I are 12 months apart. And he was born with club feet, so he was in 2 casts up to his thigh from birth for the first 2 years of his life. And she was living in Germany for my first year of life, My dad, gone for weeks at a time in an apartment by herself with, a third floor apartment and the laundry in the basement and a baby in casts and a newborn, and she just did it. And she didn't complain, and she kicked ass doing it.
All right, another woman who kicks ass. I like that. And for any of you out there who I love all this mother love so much, I know there are people in the world that maybe mom isn't here anymore, she is estranged from. Find a woman in your life like that. I have found that, and it's a useful thing to have, even when it's not your biological mom. To have a woman in your life that you can look up to and talk to, like all of these ladies do. Super useful thing to have. And Cobie, you mentioned something that I wanted to touch on. Pam Fryman being a really great example of somebody who's actually been working in the business for a long time.
Yeah.
But we are seeing in the last few years a great influx, perhaps not as big an influx as we would like, of female directors both in film and television. And I think almost all of you have worked with female directors. I know that Freema, there are some on New Amsterdam. And have you been able to discern a difference between working with female directors and male directors? Is there a difference?
Not really. It doesn't make a difference for me. I don't look at them like they're man or they're woman. I look at them like they're my directors. And usually the way I look at my directors is like my parents. My parents are here and they're trying to teach me how to do it right. And no, I've never thought about the difference really. There is there?
It's hard to say, I'm sitting here thinking about all the directors I've gotten to work with, and it's such a personal relationship. And I will say in television, having Pam direct as many episodes as she did was such a blessing. Because I'm going into a show where now we're going to have a different director each week, and I haven't experienced that before. So I think it's really about the type of relationship that you can form with the director, and hopefully, over the course of a film or over the course of multiple episodes, you can kind of work together in a positive way. I mean, Pam holds a very special place in my heart, so that's a special relationship. But yeah, I think it really just depends on that relationship with a person, whether it's a man or a woman.
So it's more of a case-by-case basis than... Although, Betty, I would ask you this because so much of the core creative team behind Belle is female. You have female showrunners, and I actually think New Amsterdam, Kate Dennis, and some other people have directed both of those shows. What has that experience been like, being sort of surrounded by women creative?
I think there's this pressure now to have, there's this idea that women in charge, that there's only one type of woman who's allowed to be at the top, and that's like a Montessori, all-inclusive, snacks in her purse, like, let's sing a song if we need to sing a song. And that's not every female leader. I think that it's just as if we've only been using the color blue, and it's time for other colors. I have been... Being surrounded by women is a very freeing experience. I also think that acting itself is a very silly, strange thing to do. And whatever director is going to help you do that brain trick that things are really happening when there's a boom mic right here and there's, you've just had a snack at crafting. Whoever's going to help you do that brain trick the best, man, woman, or tree.
Well, but you make a good point too. I think that as we make progress in certain areas, whether it's women or minorities or the LGBT community, there is the idea that you are representing this, and so it all has to be one kind of thing, which is sort of the box that we put people in as actors previously, but there was only one kind of thing that you could do. And I look at this group of women and I think how fortunate every single one of you has been to not be typecast, that you have all done comedy, drama, film, television, horror, genre, sci-fi. And I don't know if there's a way to sort of impart to people what the secret to that is. I'm assuming that each one of you, at least at the beginning, were doing roles that maybe you weren't super in love with, but you came to this basically do what you want to do. So what's the key to sort of, not demanding isn't the right word, what's the key to getting to the place of being able to do what you want to do?
Put your foot on the ground and say, I want to do this, and I don't want to do this. Make your voice heard, and just keep on doing what you think is right, I guess.
That's a good answer.
Certainly remember in my lifetime of being in this business, going from being told to grow and straighten my hair, to change my name, to, you know, all the things that are going to help me advance in the business. And at that time thinking, well, I'm probably going to do the opposite now, just because you've told me that that's the only way I'm going to get there. And so I can see a massive change. The landscape is changing a lot. Certainly at home, we've got a lot of initiatives in place now in the entertainment industry, Equity, Act for Change, Ofcom, you know, that are putting these things in place to try and get more facets and faces of true life society represented in mainstream television, and the landscape is changing. Things are shifting, the needle is moving, and I think it's not even so much like it's a magnanimous kind of charitable decision from the purse holders. I think it's good business sense if you make sure that most people can, all people can see themselves represented, because you're going to just reach a larger audience and you're going to make more money. So, you know, it's like, it makes sense.
Your opinion on this, since you have been in the business for some time now. Do you?
43 years.
All right. Have you been able to see that change? Is that something that you have seen an arc of?
Oh my God, of course. Having lived in Iran, in the UK, I got myself educated in the UK, and 30 years in the US. It's unbelievable how everything is changing. How women have finally come to the foreground. And I remember 30 years ago, people kept asking me, how come we don't see more strong female roles on the silver screen? And I kept saying, we need more powerful female, real female artists, politicians in real life. So silver screen can just, you know, reflect their activities. We have thousands of them today, and it's just unbelievable how mothers are pushing their daughters to become somebody. Do not wait to marry so-and-so. You want to be somebody on your own. Prove to the world that you're a human being, and not necessarily a female or a male. Genderless, be successful, be yourself, and let the world see through you.
Almost to one to be in shows or about to be on shows where you're the star of the show. You are not the, I mean, there are co-stars, obviously, each one of you has them, but that you are very important. You're not just a cog in the machine. And that is something, a place where I actually feel like we are seeing a lot of change, and you play very different people. And so when you turn the TV on, how gratifying is that you know that you're not playing the same role that she is playing, that she is playing?
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. No, it's exciting. I think it's. I'll speak personally just about the project I'm starting. Is that you're not coupled with anyone. There's no kind of conversation about will they or won't they. You know, it's not about a relationship. It's about a woman moving in the world and sort of being her own boss, which is something I don't think I've ever done before. I feel like I've always been coupled with partners, which has been amazing. But this is an opportunity to explore a woman sort of out for herself.
And Freema, it's interesting on your show. I feel like there are people that actually want you to get together with Marianne's character.
Yeah,
Mary.
I've seen it because
Why do you
I'm
want
in
that?
a Renee situation. But while she's being, you know, head of oncology and hematology and doing her thing, but I kind of, you know, it's that thing as well where I feel like when we talk about diversity and equality, I have a slight twinge with both of those, because for me, like, diversity sounds like you're straying from a normality. You know, it isn't that for me. It shouldn't be, here's something a little bit different, a little bit extra from the normal. Similarly, equality, which is obviously what we're all seeking, there's something about now saying, well, all women, you know, should represent this kind of woman or people, you know, are to be treated the same. I think there's also something to be said for acknowledging difference. And I think that, you know, if we start saying we are all exactly equal and exactly the same, then you're not celebrating, and then we're going to start losing the things that do differentiate us and do make us individual and do make us special. So we kind of have to be aware of that's going on at the same time. So it's a real dichotomy that's happening, and it is fascinating. We're all learning, and I feel like as long as we're open. I mean, my sister works for a regulator at home in the UK, and they were trying to run a focus group to bring people from all different backgrounds to talk about the industry and to talk about, you know, entertainment and how you feel, you know, you're reflected. And they did it at a time, they did it at Ramadan, and it was Eid, and they were like, oh, you know, worried about not getting a Muslim contingency coming in and not even understanding why. And it was like, well, it's a very important festival at this time, you're not going to get them to come right now, so you need to be aware of things that are important to individuals while trying to be inclusive.
Right, exactly. And it's such a weird time right now for both of those things. I cannot be the only person who loathes when a character is referred to as diverse, as if a person is diverse, but that's just one of those things that's happening. But you make a good point about conversation, and I think that we're all thinking about this right now. Just having a panel like this, talking about diversity, it's like, where's the line between, if we keep talking about it, it won't go away, but we have to talk about it in order for people to understand. Yeah. So when these topics come up for you, is there there's no easy way to approach these subjects. Like, equality is important, but diversity of not of people, but of thought and ideas and characters is also important. So how do you have the conversation? I mean, because you must get asked these questions, because we've all heard, and how tired are we, the strong female character, as if there had never been them before, or that we don't need weak female characters too. We need characters that are across the spectrum. So when you start having these conversations, what is it possible to say? What's the important things that you want to see happen for women, for people of color in the industry? What are the things that you want to happen? That's a big question. I'm sorry. Jerry, let's start with you.
Thanks so much. Well, I'm a mom. So first and foremost, for me, before I have ever taken a job, it's been what's the effect going to be on my kids? Because I have a son who's 24 and I have a daughter who's 11. And it was one thing when, you know, it was just my son. But when I had my daughter, it became a lot more urgent, I think, in my mind, that the characters I play were, again, strong female characters. They were a positive representation of what a woman can be. Not that, like you said, that not that every woman is the same, not that there shouldn't be, you know, the weaker victim kind of characters, not that we don't need to see everything, because we do, but for me, what I wanted to portray on screen, even if it's not necessarily a show that I want my daughter watching right now, someday she will. And I want, and not just for my daughter, because I'm sure mom, you're kind of everyone's mom. You become mother to the world, or at least I do. And so I want all of these girls that are growing up now, I want them to see every possibility. I want them to know that everything is a possibility for them. I want them to know, you want to be president? You can be president. Guess what? You know, you want to be an astronaut? Do it. Go to the moon. Go to Mars. Go anywhere. You guys can do this. And they need to see this represented, because if they don't see this represented, then they don't see it as a reality, because it's not, doors are opening more in real life, but they're not open all the way. They're opening. So conversations can be had about things, but it's not, they're not necessarily seeing all of these things represented.
And that's a much better way to frame the question for the rest of you, so thank you. When you are choosing to, when you're going through the roles that are being offered to you, what are those decisions? Are those part of the decision-making process, like Jerry is talking about why you want to do this in terms of what the character is putting out in the world?
Yeah, well, I agree with Freema. I think that there is a gray area that we have to represent too. I think with everything going on in the world right now and with strong female roles, you know, I sometimes go, okay, me, Betty, maybe I don't have the personality type for the revolution. I'm not strong and organized. My purse is full of trash, and I forgot my passport on the way, you know. So I'm like, oh, is there no place for someone who maybe doesn't have a million organized sentences and shoulders back and walking into rooms being like, this is what I demand. You know, I think that there's room in the femme revolution for everybody, and I think that bravery is pretty contagious, and I think that seeing other types of women represented, and also women like me who, you know, maybe their brain record isn't so perfectly clean on self-doubt. You know, I also think that something is happening with women on television especially, where everyone's sort of releasing their inner Kraken. Like, I watch Killing Eve and Fleabag, and, you know, these shows where I think for so long female roles really were around, you know, the journey of brunch. And right now, I think that, you know, it's been this illusion and lie that when we're zoning out, looking out the window, we're thinking of things like brunch. And I'm thinking of things like throwing a watermelon through a window or driving a van into a river. And I think that people are starting to write for that now. And so I think that the thing that can join us all is releasing the inner Kraken.
Yes.
Like that.
Freema and Cobie and Shohreh, thoughts on how you are choosing things with that?
I'm usually thinking about brunch. I'm typically always thinking about brunch.
But she's right. We should be able to be also, that's the whole point. Some of us can think about brunch, and some of us can throw men in lakes. We should be able to do it all. Well, women, let's put women in lakes too.
You know, but while we're sitting here and we're on this panel of like strong women, it's I guess it's, when I choose a role, it's a two-part thing, you know. I like to, as an artist, challenge myself and try to take on different roles just so I can grow as a performer. And then the second part of it is certainly how can you give back to the world. And, you know, it's a you know, being an actor is kind of a very selfish choice, you know, it's a very selfish thing. And I talk to people and they say, well, I just want to make people laugh. I've always just wanted to make people laugh, and I can't kind of get on board with that, but what I can get excited about is being a part of a project that normalizes something that maybe people haven't seen before, a dynamic group of friends, a different sexuality, all these things that TV and film are such pop culture influencers. Like, they create sort of how people perceive the world around them in a lot of places that aren't in major cities. So when you have the opportunity to pop into somebody's living room and you see on television yourself sort of represented in a way, or you felt the same thing that character feels, that's exciting to me. Because you can hopefully invoke change for the better, or relate to somebody who can't relate to anyone in their own world. So that's exciting to me. But it's also the definition of strong. Like, listen, you know, I've done Marvel movies and there's superheroes and you fight people, and like that could be seen as strong, but when you get to portray a woman who's dealing with an addiction who, you know, on the page is very weak and very messed up, but is, you know, putting one foot in front of the other and getting through each day, that has a strength to me. So it's really about, you know, finding that representation of what that strong woman is doing, even if you're playing a character who's a mess.
I asked about your character specifically because there is no doubt that she is a strong female character. And I wonder if you have noticed, seen that there are these memes and quotes and videos and mashups of all the badass shit that you get, stuff that you get to say on the show. What is your response to that? Do people come up to you and quote the lines to you?
They ask me to curse and cuss. They say, can you say this? And I'm like, no, I cannot say this because there are kids around. It's better if I don't say anything. But when I left Iran at the time of the revolution, I turned myself into an actress with a mission. I'm a storyteller, but first I need to love the story, and then, regardless of my role in it, I have to like the story first. Recently, when I got back from the Expanse, 6 months in cold, -35, doing exterior shots, I was ever so tired. But then I received this script called Run, Sweetheart, Run, produced by the Blumhouse. And at first I told my agent, I said, I'm really tired and I don't feel like working. And he said, but it's right up your alley, read it. I read it and I felt obliged. I thought, I'm obligated to do this. I have to do this, regardless of me being tired. So it's just satisfying when you see that what the story you tell or what you do, whether you like it or not, we are role models, young girls, women, and they look at us and see what we're doing. So it's so satisfying when we do something that is meaningful. That is, I for one, I'm so grateful to the Amazon for the fact that now that the show is being shown to the world, all the girls in the Middle East, when they see me, they think, if she did it, we can do it too. So there's hope.
Either small parts or in very large parts. You've all done genres of sci-fi, fantasy, horror. And what is it about those things, since we are here at the home of those things, that you love about doing genre stuff specifically?
Imagination, imagination, imagination. That's what all actors love, and that's all you need at your disposal.
There has never been a stronger reception by the fans, coming in here. Like, it is so wonderful. I think this is maybe my 3rd time in Hall H, and there's so many of you, and it's such a wonderful thing to be able to come and talk and to see all the costumes and to see the art, the fan art that gets drawn, and the creation that comes from these projects. And it's truly inspiring, and it also it's cyclic, because you start this project and then you see how you guys bring it to life even more, and then you really want to give back and make sure these projects are really good and that they can be better. And it's just it's a really wonderful sort of relationship that I haven't experienced doing any other movies. Like all the Marvel stuff has been so cool because you get to really have this relationship. It's really wonderful.
Yeah, definitely. All of that. I think in the sci-fi fantasy world, when you're out there meeting different species, the difference between us as the human race is diminished. So it's a very inclusive community. It's a very warm, welcoming world, actually. And you do feel that, and it's even beyond when you go on to do other roles. Certainly in my experience, that fan base is, it's so loyal, and people are interested to support you throughout, in continuing your career. So but you don't know any of that when you're first going into it. I certainly didn't know any of that, and I think similarly when it comes to roles as well that we pick, I think that the later on you get in your career, the more your past experiences obviously inform you, but then the danger can also be that you start looking at the big picture before you've even looked at the characterization in depth, and you start looking at the macro and the marketing and how am I going to connect with people, how am I going to make this speak, but then I think I've certainly tweaked that a little bit and have started to just reconnect with the role, make sure it's saying something to you and you can say that, translate that authentically, and then it resonates out, I think, if you're doing it genuinely, and then you kind of end up with something that you're proud of and that people are pleased with.
Absolutely. Ladies, Jerry, have you seen anybody cosplaying, by the way? You must have over the years.
Have I seen any cosplay?
You're like, girl.
What do you guys think? Have you guys seen any? Might have seen a few.
Yeah, just a
Might have seen a few. No, listen, come on. I'm in the world of Star Trek. That is the most loyal, passionate fan base. God bless you guys. Seriously. I mean, all the fandoms are great. I love all the fandoms, but come on. I mean, the Star Trek fans, you guys rock. And sci-fi is great because it's fantasy. I mean, it's anything goes. You're not like stuck to the, physics. Physics doesn't matter. You can make whatever happen that needs to happen. So you're not anchored to the world of human reality. So you could play anything. I played a character that started out human and became a machine and then had to learn how to be human again. And it's a whole different opportunity to connect with fans and to show different sections of society a representation of themselves. Personally, with 7 of 9, I heard from so many people who are on the autism spectrum that they appreciated seeing a character that had the same struggles that they did. Because she didn't have social skills. She didn't know, personal space boundaries. She didn't understand social norms. She had to learn all of that. And that's very much the same kind of experience that a lot of those people have. And I know this because my son is on the spectrum. And that was so meaningful to me when these fans reach out and say, thank you for showing me on screen, for letting me see that it's not just me and I'm not alone and I'm not the oddball. That I can see that represented, and it gives me hope, and it makes me feel not so alone, and I love that.
That's great. That's something that genre is so good at. The Expanse is so good at. Star Trek is so good at. That on the surface that we think that these are these fantastical stories, but they have so much to say to us about what's happening in our world right now and the way that we're interacting with each other. And certainly on your show, even though it is literally out there. there are things from the show that I'm sure you might.
It's so timely and relevant. Sometimes I feel like I wish it was a daily show, so we could tape it in the morning and show it to the audience in the afternoon, and they would see how relevant and how timely this show is in regards with politics, social, geopolitical situation in the world. It's unbelievable. And some stuff that the show has suggested in the 2nd and 3rd season is now happening. And I look at the news and I'm like, this is not news to me. I knew this last year.
Because it's already happening in the future.
It's already happening.
But speaking of cosplay, I always like to ask this. Have any of you ever done it? And if you were going to do it, who would you dress up as? Totally frivolous question, but I'm super into it.
Random Ravenclaw student from Harry Potter.
I like it.
Ravenclaw!
Points for Ravenclaw. So if you were going to dress up as somebody. Freema, I feel like
I have. My sister still is, but Star Trek was a massive part of our household, and so we went to conventions, and she went as a Bajoran. And we like a little putty on all those. We couldn't do it properly. We just went to fancy dress shop and got some fabric and tried to just put stuff together. But it struck me then, before I was even thinking about getting in the business, just how much it felt like a big community then. We would go to these events and hang out, and it was fascinating. It makes me feel a real warmth.
Cobie, is there a character you've always died?
Do you hear my brain going like this?
It's like there's got to be somebody.
Well, there for sure is. I think the thing that always impresses me are the homemade costumes.
Yeah.
That always gets me so excited because it's so creative. Okay, Poison Ivy would be really fun. Or Xena Warrior Princess.
I like it, Betty.
Oh
gosh. Well, I often get mistaken for Jodie Comer on Killing Eve. So maybe I would just cosplay as her, but not have to. I'm not good with arts and crafts, so I would just get dressed.
She's got fantastic fashion.
Yes,
She's got a great wardrobe.
Shohreh, is there a character that you've always loved?
Jerry, the queen of Star Trek.
And you would look fabulous.
So it's Betty's first Comic-Con. If there are any Liberty Bells out there, please make yourself known.
Just pretend.
because
Just one person
We
pretend.
need that, but when you see them, like direct them towards her because we know there are Liberty Bells out there. So for each one of you, you are all going into something new or going back to something that you have loved previously. You are coming back on the Expanse in December, yes? Stumptown is on when?
September on ABC.
Tell the people about what Stumptown is.
Okay. I just turned into my broadcaster voice. Did you hear? This is an advertisement. This is the advertising portion of the panel. Yeah, I'm on a new show. It's called Stumptown. It's based off of a graphic novel written by Greg Rucka, which some of you may. Yeah, we can clap for him. He's amazing. And I play a private investigator in Portland, Oregon, and she's, oh yeah, Portland, all right. She's ex-military, she is a sex addict, she's a gambling addict, she is a drinker. But she's also a very good person, very, very honorable, and we'll follow the show. We'll do cases, but it will be mostly character-driven and a lot of fun. We're calling it like an action dramedy. Shows now are like, you can't categorize them, and you can't categorize our show, so it's a little bit of everything, and it should be super fun.
And I believe that the very attractive Michael Eagan.
Yes, he is.
Another reason to tune in. Freema, we
He's
need to
attractive.
know what happened. Can you tell us anything? There was a big crash.
There was a crash. Yeah, what can I tell you?
You're here, so I feel like that's a good sign.
Yeah, but I'm also, it's sci-fi con, so it could be a big twist, like maybe, maybe it isn't what you think. Maybe things aren't what they seem. I don't know. I can't, I'm not
the best I could.
I was shocked when I read that too. I actually thought that the show was going to move at a slower pace than it actually does. I thought, because I hadn't done network television before, and 22 episodes of network, I was like, oh, this is obviously going to have a different pace to like doing 8 episodes on Netflix or whatever. And I was blown away, pleasantly surprised that the creators aren't afraid to move the story forward and move at a momentum, and so yeah, that crash at the end is certainly going to change the landscape a little bit in season 2.
Alright, so Glow returns August 9th, but Betty is also here because she is going to be in The Hunt, and I don't know if you've seen the trailer for The Hunt yet, but it is legitimately upsetting.
The trailer-
Tell people what The Hunt is about.
Okay, the trailer comes out July 29th.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, yeah, and it's
It's on the teaser that everyone's seen.
oh yeah, the official trailer comes out July 29th, and I'm gonna get like a neck dart from Blumhouse if I say anything too spoilery. So I think what I'm allowed to say is that it's about 12 strangers who wake up in a clearing with gags in their mouths and don't know how they got there, and it quickly becomes apparent that they are being hunted. Yes.
And that is what she can say. And you've already told us that you can tell us nothing. Is there anything else about Picard that you can tell us in terms of when it is coming?
I'm sorry. I'm told early 2020.
All right.
Not what that means exactly.